go to the team ISO for the week. This week we are team ISOing the Montreal Canadiens. On the panel, my compadre Ian Boisvert. He's the managing editor at Rabid Habs. You can also hear him on the Nosebleedscast, talking all things Habs, of course. You can find him on Twitter at Maybe It's Ian. And Trege Wilson, he's the co-host of the Habs Unfiltered podcast, and he also covers the Canadiens for the Hockey Writer. You can get him also on Twitter at Trege Wilson _THW. Welcome back, gents.
How you doing?
Hey, Peter.
Hey, guys. I'm hanging in. It's the season's getting started. It's underway. It feels a little bit more normal. I'm glad it's starting to feel more normal, right?
Yeah. I'm glad there's fans in the rinks. I'm glad you don't have that stupid ambient crowd blowing in. It's an actual crowd.
Yeah.
It's just nice to see hockey back into its original form, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Hearing that Bell Center pop on a Saturday night with actual fans, and it's pretty fun. They started Olaying on Saturday, and I would be lying if I said I didn't get a little emotional. Like it's cool to see them back in there.
Yeah. Even though it was like 9 minutes left in the game, but still you wanted to
let them go. Have fun. It's been a year.
Hey, I missed the suits at the Scotiabank Center, right? I missed the suits not being very loud. And you know what? The Leafs got destroyed against the Penguins, and the fans were doing the wave. And of course, the media's like, oh, the wave. I'm like, yes, the wave is back. That's fine with me. There's fans. There's craziness. You know, they're getting blown apart. I don't care. It's exciting, and I don't care. There's hockey back. There's fans back.
They lost the suits, but Matthews had a nice purse, so that's what matters. He had a nice purse. So,
oh yes, they're allowed to wear whatever they want. So let's get right into it with the Canadiens. Is Matthew Perreault gonna score all the goals for the team this year? Of course, he had a great hat trick. Trege?
No.
Oh, really?
Okay. As a matter of fact, I wasn't all that impressed with Perreault right up until Saturday night's game. I thought I didn't like him at center because I don't think he's a center. However, I thought he played an excellent game. I thought he played very well, and I think Caulfield played very well on his wing. I know we're going to get into that a little later, but I thought that line was excellent all through and through. And Perreault's goals weren't cheap goals. I mean, he had the empty net for the hat trick. So what? Let him have it. But he had good goals. He was in good position to score them. And he won't score all the goals, but I think Perreault's going to be that Nick Cousins type guy or whatever that's going to get you 12, 15 goals and play a little bit of time in the power play.
Yeah, I think it was just nice that they found a line outside of Drouin, Anderson and Dvorak that actually worked. You know, Dom Ducharme needed to mix things up. He did. He found a line that worked. I think he's going to ride it until it stops working, which, hey, that's what he ought to do. I think Perreault's he's a fun story because he's a hometown guy coming back in the tail end of his career to play for his childhood team. When he scored that hat trick against Detroit, you could see him get emotional about it. You could see how much, he had his glove in front of his mouth to hide his smile, but he was glowing. He was so happy just to be there. And then to score a hat trick at the Bell Center on a Saturday night's got to be, pretty cool. I don't think he's going to score all the goals, but I think he's a fun energy kind of player that's going to bring, if it's not, if he's not lighting up the stat sheet every night, he's going to work his tail off most other nights.
And he was the guy, if you watch the home opener, the very first home game, he was the one that had the biggest smile on his face when they were being introduced coming out. So just for him to be in Montreal and play for Montreal, I think is his childhood dream. And, I hope he enjoys it. I agree with Ian. He's probably going to play his heart out. Like I said, I wasn't impressed with him, but he is the type of guy that's going to give 110 every game. So you can't go wrong with that.
You could see the emotion come out of him. I saw the little chapeau move and everything too. He's just thrilled to be there with the fans too, and hometown team. Yeah, for sure. We also maybe saw the best of the kids during the playoff run, right? What's going on with Suzuki and Cole Caulfield so far? And can we at least see them turn it around soon enough? I guess that weekend showed them, right?
Well, like I mentioned before, I thought he had his best game against Detroit. He was creating offense. He missed the net a few times. There's a few shots that he had that he just missed the net, just put it over top or where he didn't want to, but he looked like he had a lot of confidence. He was driving the offense. He got his first point. He got an assist on one of Perreault's goals. I don't remember which one. I think it was the first one. And I thought he looked good. Ducharme rolled the line, so even though he was down on what we call the third line, he still got, I think, 13 or 14 minutes in, which is good for him. And when it comes to Suzuki, I thought Suzuki's been playing well. He just hasn't been putting the puck in the net or getting the points. I don't think Suzuki, like a lot of people were saying, he's not playing with confidence, but I thought all 6 games, I don't think Suzuki's had a bad game. Just the team itself just wasn't gelling or putting the points on the board. And I think dropping him down to the second line and giving Dvorak the first line minutes, I think was a good idea by Ducharme. Takes a little pressure off him. He's not against the top lines, which Dvorak mostly is anyway. But yeah, I think they'll be all right. I think it's just, once the points start coming, the goals will start coming, and then I think they'll be right where we thought they were going to be at the end of the season, point-wise.
Yeah. And I think, especially with Cole Caulfield, he kind of, especially at this stage in his career, I'm not saying that it's always going to be this way, but I think at this point, I don't think he can drive a line on his own. He needs somebody that's going to get him the puck. He needs a distributor. That worked really well with in the playoffs with Suzuki down the middle and Toffoli on the other wing. That stopped working for whatever reason in training camp and into the beginning of the season. But, on the power play, they need somebody that's going to dish him the puck. The power play hasn't worked particularly well so far. He did have he had a goal post against San Jose. He's been open on that traditional Weber spot or the Ovi spot. I find they're having a hard time getting the puck to him, which is frustrating because I think he's their biggest offensive weapon out there. And he's really, really good at finding himself in open spots. He was great at it in college. He was great at it in World Juniors. He gets himself into open ice. They have to find a way to get him the puck. On the power play, they have to find a way to get anybody not at the point the puck. They figured that out last game. It looked like it when they were able to get Hoffman the puck. They were able to cycle things down low a little bit better. As they figure that out, I think Cole Caulfield will figure out his game as well.
Petrie, there's a few times Petrie had a chance to pass it to Caulfield when he was wide open, and for some reason he didn't. I don't know if he didn't see them or if he decided to take that big shot and usually I think he hit a couple ankles or got it nowhere near the net.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Petrie's off his game right now. I don't think Petrie's playing good hockey right now. Maybe that's part of it. But Caulfield's been open, like Ian said, quite a few times on that power play, and just Druin's tried to seam the pass through a couple times and just couldn't get it through. But when Petrie, I'm only pointing to this because I've seen it in almost every game. Petrie gets the puck at the point, Caulfield's wide open over here, and he either shoots it or does something else with it. And I just don't understand why. It is a mystery to me.
I think it's a bit of a struggle for Petrie back there because he's a right-handed shot and Caulfield's behind him. He has to peek over his shoulder, or he has to just trust that he can blind a backhand pass to him. I think that's where Sami Niku might come in to play a little bit more, or, Chris Weidman, if they had him out with him, because they're both left-handed shots, they can more easily get that puck to him. But I agree with the, Drouin trying to get that seam pass across. That was Tatar's music last year. He loved that seam pass. They need to find a guy who can do that. If that's Suzuki, that's awesome. If it's Drouin, I like that too, because I really like Drouin on the opposite side of that power play. But I think there's a few other parts they have to get going in order for Caulfield and Suzuki to get moving as well.
Ian, you mentioned Sami Niku. They added him. He was banged up, and now he's healthy. You told me before we started recording, he got 2 assists. He looked pretty good in that first game. The 25-year-old Finnish defenseman, of course, he played with the Jets before they got him, obviously trying to resurrect his career. How can his skill set really help this team? Obviously, he's playing on the power play.
Yeah, I think the Canadians have a lot of defensemen that play a lot, that play a very similar way. The Sherratts, the Savards, like that caliber of player. Niku kind of brings something that they've been lacking for a while in a guy who's just really strictly an offensive defenseman. He's not a liability defensively, at least from what I've seen. He's probably replacement level in that respect. But in the offensive zone, he's able to find those passes. He's able to move the puck really well. I was also surprised just by how large he is. Like he's a really big dude for a guy who skates pretty well, who's got a little bit of flair for the offense. I think that his biggest thing to add to this team is moving the puck up to the forwards. That's something that Montreal has really struggled with. They got better at it into the playoffs last year, where their transition game really took off. You saw, I think most of their goals came off of like odd man rushes or breakaways or things like that. Having a guy like Niku back there can help that transition. Guys like Sherratt and Savard, when they're at their best, they're stopping the play, but it doesn't mean that, they're particularly great at excelling it forward. We'll see. It's been early for both those guys. But I think Niku is that kind of prototypical puck moving defenseman, if not of an Erik Karlsson variety, although I think with the hair, he kind of looks like him.
I've mentioned this off camera before we came on, but I look at him as a Victor Mete type with the transition. Better skater, better mover with the puck. We talked about that too. And he's not, Victor Mete is more of a north-south, but he's going to get by everyone to get it there. Nico can move the puck. He can stick handle. I thought he was going to be more of a liability on defense, but I didn't think he was in the game against Detroit. I thought he played well. I like how they're pairing a defensive defenseman with a sort of puck-moving defenseman. You got Romanov with Savard. Nico was with Kulak, who can move the puck himself. And then you had Petrie and I'm forgetting one person. Anyway, whoever his partner was, I can't remember. And but what Niku brings is he's going to bring that Erik Gustafsson, the same reason he was brought in for the playoffs. Erik Gustafsson's a pure offensive defenseman. He is a liability, however, at his own end. He's that type of guy you just want to put on the power play and pretty much not really put out on the ice for anything else. But I think Nico is going to bring more of that. I think the biggest issue for what I hear from Winnipeg people was that he had a hard time listening to the coaches when he was in Winnipeg, and he had a little bit of an attitude issue there. He got sent down to Manitoba, and where he spent most of his time in Winnipeg, and he worked that out. He realized that, hey, if I'm going to make a career of this, I got to work with my coaches and all this kind of stuff. So hopefully that he signed on for that, and that's the way he's going to go forward, because I so far I'm liking what I see, and I hope when Edmondson come back, Nico's not the guy that comes out of the lineup.
In the offseason, it was a wild and interesting one as we saw it for the Canadian. Obviously, Carey Price with the Seattle Kraken expansion was an interesting one at that point. And of course, with everything he's going through, and I wish him the best. And that's why I'm wearing his jersey today. They also lost Jesper Kotkaniemi to an offer sheet from the Carolina Hurricanes. That was eventful with the tweets and everything and the revenge stuff. But they used the pick, obviously, to get Christian Dvorak from the Arizona Coyotes. So before we get to the other guys, what do the Canadians have in Dvorak, Trege?
They got a similar player to Danault with a little bit more offensive flair, not as good defensively. I don't think he's to Danault's level defensively. He has more offense than Danault has. I think he's a very good 200-foot centerman. He's only 24, so he's still young. He's still going to improve. He's still going to do well. I don't think he's a Kotkaniemi replacement. I think he's a Danault replacement. I think the defense will eventually come, but so far he's been their top center. He's been one of the top face-off guys in the league, and he's been the Habs' top center so far. I think he's outplayed Suzuki even so far in the 6 games of the season. Point total wise, I think I could easily get 40 points out of Dvorak, 15, 20 goals maybe. I can see that happening. And I think it was a good move. I think Bergevin had him on his radar even before the Kotkaniemi thing. I think he was coming regardless. I think the Kotkaniemi thing just made it a little bit easier for him to get him. Yeah, I think it was a good pickup for him. I'm glad he's on the team, and I think he's going to be one of the top centers for the Canadiens for years to come.
Yeah, and I think it speaks volumes of what Marc Bergevin thought of Christian Dvorak up until this summer, when Montreal acquired him from Arizona. Marc Bergevin had never traded a first-round pick for a player. I'm trying to remember if he flipped some at the draft, like if he moved positions, but I don't even think he really did that.
I don't think he's ever moved a first-round pick.
No, this was the first time, and of course, and it doesn't hurt that very same afternoon he acquired another one because of the offer sheet. So he kind of insulated himself there. He always wants to arm himself with one first-round pick. But yeah, I kind of echo what Trege has been saying. He's a very good 200-foot player. I see him come back to support the defenseman in the breakout. He's playing on the only line that hasn't been taken apart so far through the team's 1-5 start. Anderson and Trege have been really, really good together. A lot of the offense is going to come from the wing there, but they need a guy that's going to feed them the puck. The joke around Habs fans is that Anderson will never pass the puck if his life depended on it. So having a guy like Drouin and having another guy in the middle like Dvorak who can distribute the puck is going to be effective. I kind of echo the he's not a Kotkaniemi replacement. He was a Danault replacement. I think in an ideal world, I think Marc Bergevin wanted to keep both of them. I think if you had both of them, you're in a really good spot. But I mean, considering the situation that he was in, and then under no circumstances should he have matched that offer sheet, that goes without too much of an issue there. I think he did well given the circumstances. But yeah, Dvorak's cap number is low for the next few years. They're going to be able to keep him around. If they can keep that line together and they have some sort of chemistry, it's nice to have that level of, it's nice for Ducharme to have that line to roll out there. He had always had the Gallagher, Danault, Tatar line to just run out whenever he wanted. That line isn't around anymore. 2/3 of those guys are gone. So they need a line that's going to offer some consistency. I think that's the line.
Yeah, and that's what I say. Like, I still believe Dvorak was coming to the Canadiens, whether Kotkaniemi went to Carolina or not. What the cost would have been, I don't know. I'm thinking Paling, not a first-round pick, but that's just me hypothetically thinking. So, which would have begged another question is what happens to Kotkaniemi with Dvorak coming in? He stays as a third-line center. I mean, he's not much more than Carolina than a third-line player right now anyway, but and that again speaks volumes to Dvorak, how much Bergevin wanted him on the team. And I think as soon as he lost Danault, that was the first player he was looking at to come back to the team and help replace that hole left by Danault.
Yeah, I think Bergevin played it pretty smooth there with that move. What he couldn't control was, of course, Philippe Danault, Shea Weber, and Carey Price obviously gone. Price is probably the most important piece. Obviously, we saw what he can do still in the playoffs. But how can this team, and this is what I was mentioning earlier, actually recover from losing so many skilled players, but also deep down the leadership of Weber and them? I don't think some fans understand the impact of them not being there, Trege.
I think the talent sort of got replaced. I think Hoffman's kind of a Tatar replacement without the defensive side of it. Like we say, Dvorak was the replacement for Danault. Weber, his leadership was big. And I think that's the biggest point. The leadership in the room is what they really lost. It wasn't really the talent on the ice. Weber's defensive, I think Savard replaces that. I don't think Weber was at the level Weber usually was at last year, mostly because of all his injuries. So I think Savard, if we're looking at replacement for replacement based on Weber last year, I think Savard will hold up to that. but the leadership was a big thing, and Carey Price was big. I think Allen can hold the fort. I think Allen's a good goaltender. I think he can. If Canadians can stay roughly 500 until Price gets back, which I believe will be around Christmas. But I think they'll be okay. But you're right. The leadership is the biggest thing they lost. I think Gallagher's doing his best but Gallagher is a different kind of leader than Weber was. Weber actually is going to be in Seattle with the team for their game against the Kraken tomorrow night. It was just on Chantel Maccabee reported that on Twitter there earlier. So that'll be a big boost, I think, for the Canadians, something that can propel them forward. They lost a lot of leadership. Stahl, Weber, Perry. That's a lot of leadership and knowledge in the room that they lost in the offseason. It's tough to get that back.
Yeah, and you can see Gallagher's really feeling it out there. Like he's, as hard as the start was for the team and all of that, like I think he's feeling the brunt of that the most. He's always worn his heart on his sleeve, and you can see it. But I mean, he looks frustrated out there. I think it's a lot of pressure on him. I think he's doing the best that he can given the situation. But Peter, like you said, like we were lauding these players in May through June when they carried this team to a cup final. We're learning now that Weber was playing on basically a non-existent ankle. Like he just couldn't move. And he still played 25 minutes a night. Even if it's not like the vocal leadership, it's the leadership in the sense that, the players are looking to a guy like him to teach them the habits that they need to play, not glorifying playing through injury, but just what he did every day when he showed up to the rink. Carey Price is that same kind of guy. I think of a guy like Thomas Plekanec, who isn't around anymore. Plekanec was the first guy that showed up to the rink every day. He was, Marc Bergevin has always said, he said it in a clip, if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. That was that sort of mentality that they had. I think that room is lacking a little bit of that leadership now. Price is going to come back, hopefully sometime soon. I hope, things are going well for him. But it does, there's a void there. And, I think they're hoping some of the younger guys step up. I know they're hoping that like a Petrie can lead the way, and some of the comments he's made in post-game press conferences has made him appear like he's assumed that role. I don't know what else there is to be said that hasn't already been said. It's a big void in leadership that they're doing their best to fill, but you're not going to fill that.
All right. I often wonder if they would have brought Eric Stahl back, if maybe, just on a, I know Stahl said he didn't want to play in Canada, wanted to stay in the States, but I've often thought, maybe bring Eric Stahl back on a $750,000 contract, and then he could be the fourth line center, the leader in the room. But I don't know. We'll see. What happens.
A Nate Thompson type would be nice. Yeah. A guy like Corey Perry coming back would have been really great. Tampa Bay threw an extra year at him, and he couldn't say no. I don't blame him.
No.
So they're desperately looking for that kind of guy. It would not surprise me if in December or February we see Marc Bergevin make a trade to acquire a player like that. He seems to do it just about every year. We just got to wait and see who's available.
So we will wait to see if they can bring a veteran in the lineup this season, or if somebody can step up. Again, you can find them on Twitter at Trege Wilson _THW for Trege, and for Ian at Maybe It's Ian. Thank you again for both of you coming.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Peter.